Drink Different with Dr. Wolf, the change agent.
And we're live.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's actually afternoon now with our clock off of daylight savings time. Monday evening to you if you're on the East Coast. I'm Dr. Steve Wolf, change agent. We get to spend some more time with each other. I want to thank you for your interest. Come on over. I invite you to call in with questions you have. I'm a clinical psychologist in private practice. My specialty, as many of you know, one of them is in teaching the Taming Your Anger program, Taming Your Anger with Emotional Intelligence. Please, I love it when people call in. It's much more dynamic if I can interact with you. You can also go, if you're listening online, you can go to the chat room in the lower right-hand corner, write in a question. Mr. J will read it out. So I welcome you to join me. I want this to be a place where we can interact with each other. So Mondays are good for me. I go to this continuing high school I've talked about before, and we are teaching Taming Your Anger with Emotional Intelligence. The idea is to teach it as curriculum now. I believe that emotional intelligence is as important as reading, writing, and arithmetic. That to learn how to deal with your emotions, how to express your emotions, how to control your emotions, this is key to a good life. And the kids are learning. I've taught them the basic tools. What I tell them is that I could now, if I give you a book about riding a bike, I could show you pictures of people riding a bike. I could show you a video of people riding a bike. But until you rode a bike, until you got on a bike, you'd have no idea what riding a bike was about. I tell them that's what Taming Your Anger is about. Once you use the method, and I start out each class and did anybody have an incident where they use the Taming Your Anger method or the particular breathing exercise in order to deal with an incident. Invariably, there are 6 classes. Invariably, there are some kids, these are anywhere between 15 and 20 years old, I'd say, 15, 16. Invariably, some of them have used it. And then I acknowledge that now they got on a bike, they're in stage 2 of the program. Now that they know it works, they can begin to prepare themselves to develop a new habit. You can train your brain to develop a new habit. And you have a choice. You have an old habit, I tell them. You have an old habit that to deal with anger that you developed when you were less than 5 years. Oop, we got some feedback going on. So you can let your old habit that you learned. Whoop, Mr. J. I can hear your voice in the background, but I don't know what you're saying.
Actually, I haven't said anything until now.
So you have a choice. You can let the habit that you learned when you were 5 years old be what influences your behavior. Or now you've been offered an opportunity to develop a new habit that reflects more on who you are and what your values are, what your intentions are. So pretty much that's how I introduce where they're at. And I tell them it's up to you now. You know, you can either you can either remember to use your breath when you're getting angry to change the pattern or not. It's up to you. And the kids are bringing in incidents. I have them bring in incidents where they didn't use the method and they looked at the consequences and they're learning how not to break the rules because you can't help what you feel. They learn that. You can't help it when you feel angry, but you are responsible for how you express it. And so the rules are you can't hurt yourself, no punching walls or cutting yourself or stupid things like that. Can't hurt yourself, can't hurt somebody else, don't destroy anything of value, and don't hurt anybody's feelings. So if you can express the emotion without breaking the rules, you're in good shape. And the kids are learning that. And it's a method to strive toward the vision statement that we have, which is my vision statement, which is the vision is to reduce violence and increase emotional intelligence, one person at a time, beginning with ourselves, and passing it on. It's the vision statement. And the Taming Your Anger is a method to do that. And I'd encourage you to go to tamingyouраnger.com. You can get the basic workbook, an e-copy of the workbook for less than $5. And if you call in and contact us, I'll send you a free e-copy of the book. Because what that is a method we can all use to learn how to tame our anger a little bit better. So I read this book last weekend called The Power of Habit by Eric Unghol, I believe his name is. And there's a couple of concepts that I really enjoyed in there that I use in my teaching. One is the idea that willpower is like a muscle, and it can be developed and strengthened. I love that idea. Because I've been using, without having that language that I got from him, I've been using that principle for a long time in terms of creating change. Those of you who have heard me dealing with change time later, which we'll do later on, understand how I do that. Because the smallest change that you make in a pattern actually is building up your willpower to head in a new direction. I love the language. And so we have willpower, and then we have woke power, and we have habits. So working with these kids, mostly Black, some Latino, I talked about Rosa Parks this week in school. And we looked at what Rosa Parks did, which was she refused to give up her seat when told she had to because there was a white person coming on the bus. Now, that was the beginning. That is markedly the beginning of the civil rights movement. Or maybe a little arbitrary, but she did that. She accomplished it because she was prepared and she had a team of people behind her and she had a method and so on. And God bless her because of the changes that came out of that action. The point of my talking about this to mostly African-American youth was to see what the habit was of all the other African-Americans in Birmingham, Alabama, until Rosa Parks said, I'm not doing that. And then the boycott happened around that. What was the habit of all the African-Americans in Birmingham, Alabama, before Rosa Parks threw down the gauntlet? That's right. The habit was we go to the back of the bus. That was the habit. You might have had feelings about it. Maybe you didn't even think about it. Younger ones probably didn't think about it. They just went to the back of the bus because that's what it was. That was a habit. She took on the habit. She didn't think of it as a habit, but she took on that habit by saying, I'm not going to continue to tolerate this immoral principle in my own life. And again, with the social support that she had, she could now enliven a movement. And so I talked to these kids about habits. I'll say to them, what were some of your habits today? I'll ask you, what are some of your habits? What were some of your habits when you woke up this morning? What were your habits? You brushed your teeth, washed your face, maybe had a cup of coffee, had your usual breakfast. Maybe you have a habit of doing some push-ups. Maybe you have a habit of picking up the paper. Don't know what your habit is. Maybe you have a habit of buying the same toothpaste. Habits, patterns. This determines a lot of our behavior. The challenge is to change a habit once you've identified that you want to. One of my sayings is, until we identify a character, let's say a habit pattern, as a habit pattern, we think it's our real pattern. Or as I say, because I talk about the Knights of the Round Table and protector saboteur. Some of you have heard me talk about that before, that we develop a pattern of behavior early on in life, beginning probably in the second year, where we learn how to protect ourselves from the vulnerability of sensitive feelings. And we develop a protector, a pattern. This is what I understand to be the ego. It's a construction of personality. Now, these patterns, which originally start as protectors, become saboteurs later on. They sabotage us in our life. Part of the way they do that is we don't recognize them as saboteurs because they've been with us for a long time. So that brings up another saying that I have, which I got from The Godfather, and I found out today Wesley Snipes said it too in Blade. Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. Because you can trust your friends. But you don't want to trust somebody who's not your friend because you don't know if their intentions are in your best interests. I bring that up because we listen to the voice of some of these characters at our table, some of these internal dialogues, attitudes, ways of perceiving the world. We think that they are voices that are in our best interests, but they're not. What happens when a character, it's like a Trojan horse, an attitude comes in and we think it's really our friend, that we can trust it because it seems appropriate. And so I talk to the kids about some of the habits they have that come from attitudes they've developed that they think is the voice of a friend, when in fact, it may be a habit that comes from another attitude. So for them who are teenagers, I said, teenagers tend to get a sense of their own identity in resistance. I won't. You can't make me do that. No, I won't. No way. Not doing it. I'm going off in my own direction. I'm not doing what they say I should do. I'm not. I won't. No. In that assertion, I won't, there's a sense of self, who I am. I won't. In the resistance. Now, I told these teenagers that, and I've talked to them about the difference, because an adult doesn't need to resist in order to get a sense of self. The adult, and it doesn't matter how old you are. You don't have, just because you turn 22 doesn't mean you're an adult in my book, according to this definition. But instead of going, I won't, the adult takes that energy and harnesses it with his will or her will to pursue what they believe to be in their best interests. They go towards something. They put that energy, instead of I won't and you can't, they put it toward the pursuit of something that has value. To me, that's an indication of a higher level of development and maturity. So I told these kids, all that I won't and I don't feel like it and all that stuff, that's like going to the back of the bus. Everybody's doing it. They live in a world where that's just the way people think and feel, and they don't even think about it. Just like the African Americans in the 1950s and early 60s, they didn't think about it. They just went to the back of the bus. You just believe that story. You tell yourself, I can't. I won't. I don't want to. I won't try anything new. No way. Not me. And you hear that attitude inside of yourself, and you say, yeah, I'm down with that. That makes sense.